All right, thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. Zulgad, Jess Myers talking about the Minnesota Wild has once again won a first-round playoff series, Jess. A 4-1 victory, Game 6, over the St. Louis Blues, a series that I gave up on after about Game 3 or so. Nonetheless,
wild mood swings for you in this series. You were ready to plan the Stanley Cup parade after Game 3, and you'd given up after Game 4.
I know. You know what? I hadn't.
And here we are.
That's not true. I had not given up, but I've given up trying to predict what might happen because it was an odd series. Safe to say that once again, I think for basically the second year in a row, this was the Zach Parise show. Is that fair to say?
Man. And you know, I'm sure this is a repeat of what I said last year. But on
it doesn't matter.
July 4th, 2012, when they offered him close to $100 million, this is exactly what they had in mind. Is beautiful spring days with people filling the outdoor cafes in downtown St. Paul and Zach Parise leading them in the playoffs. I mean, this is the culmination of literally a dream come true if you're Craig Leopold.
Parise scores 2 goals, including a shorthanded goal to open the scoring at 7:14 of the first period. Take us through that goal and your thoughts as Parise took a shot that I thought was going to hit the side of the net.
First of all, a very nice play by Matt Cook. And they finally added an assist. It was listed as an unassisted goal until way after the game. They finally went back and said Matt Cook deserves an assist. He makes a nice diving play. Keep in mind, they're killing a penalty. He makes a diving play just to kind of knock the puck away, springs Parise between the two defenders. Parise gets a nice jump, and he's even with Kevin Shattenkirk on the play. He realizes he's maybe got to step on Shattenkirk. Shattenkirk comes in, delivers a big hit, and it doesn't even phase Parise. He's still got the puck on his stick, comes in, and then it's one of those way down on the goal line, just throw it at the net and see what happens. I think you're right. I thought it would maybe hit the side of the net or go wide or something like that. And that was maybe the first time we've seen Jake Allen get really rattled in this series. I mean, that was the talk going into Game 5.
He's flustered.
Is that Allen had been so much better overall than Dubnyk even. And that was the first time we really saw Allen get flustered.
And really, we probably didn't see this, I would say, in Games 1, 2, or 3 too much. But starting with Game 4, we saw what we thought would happen, which is goaltending, right? Now, Dubnyk was terrible in Game 4, but to his credit, in Game 5 and 6, he's brilliant. Jake Allen, who was solid, I would say, through Game 4, just absolutely starts to sort of fall apart on Friday night and completely imploded today. In fact, I guess Ken Hitchcock was on the NBC broadcast at one point during a break in play, and he essentially said, "I'm not lifting Jake Allen. He needs to learn." And then the Fontaine goal gets scored, which went right through poor Jake Allen's legs, and the next thing you know, Brian Elliott's coming into the game. Nonetheless, this series did come down to, it took a while, but it came down to goaltending, I think. It really did.
Absolutely. And I mean, that was the talk in the Blues locker room today is you can't score 2 goals in your last 2 games and expect to win. You're just not going to advance that way. You had to find a way to solve Dubnyk, and they just couldn't do it. So now, you know, the Wild have a nice couple days to lay off to think about Chicago. We're hearing rumors it's going to be a Friday, Sunday series.
I think it will be, yeah.
That's
that makes
great.
Sense.
You know, it gives them a few days to rest up.
You
know, they came out of this series pretty healthy. Not a lot of problems that way.
True.
And obviously feeling good about themselves. And the Blues went back to it again today saying, hey, you can't be surprised like this by what happened here. Since the new year, Minnesota has been the scariest team in the NHL. And again, you know, we're close to it. It's hard for us to think about that as, you know, we've seen all the warts and things like that, but from an outside perspective, this is a Wild team that's scaring a lot of people now.
Well, and here's one thing that strikes me, because in this state we do have wild fluctuations, no pun intended once again. Big fluctuations though. Team wins a game, we think they're the greatest. Team gets drilled, we think, oh man. The one difference that I see with this team, and this is what's different I think about this team than a lot of the sports teams in this town, is 2 guys, Parise and Dubnyk. And it's not just that they're good, they're stabilizing. I got the feeling in these last 2 games that even when things started to go wrong, Dubnyk was playing so well that he basically could say, I got it, don't worry about it. Parise, Game 6, same thing. That should have been a scoreless first period. And he goes down and takes a shot that has no business going in. And once again, Jess, to me, it's this, don't worry about it, I got it feeling.
And it was the same way in the third period. I mean, you know, Oshie gets that kind of goofy goal with 3-some seconds left on the clock. All of a sudden, here comes the momentum. You know, Wild fans are relaxing just a little bit, thinking after 40 minutes, we're up 2-0, we're in good shape. Oh boy, here we go again. You know, and if you remember the first 45 seconds of the third period, I think the Blues had 2 or 3 shots on goal. I mean, they came out charging out of that locker room like, this is our game. We've got the momentum. We're going to tie this thing. We're going to take care of it. 1 minute and 1 second into the third, Parise scores again, and for all intents and purposes, it zaps the life out of St. Louis. They still control the play. They still shoot, but they realize we're not going to score 4 goals to beat Devin Dubnyk. It's just not going to happen because nobody has, other than the one fluky game where he just didn't have it.
In these last 2 games, in Game 5 and 6, the only time, Jess Myers, that I ever thought that the Wild was in big trouble was the opening sequence of the first period on Friday, when I thought the Blues were going to run them out of the building. After that, and I know the shots in the second period today were one-sided towards St. Louis. I know they were incredibly one-sided in that first and third period on Friday. But in that third period on Friday and in the second period today, I never had this feeling of, oh, now the Wild's in huge trouble. I thought they need to play better. I thought they should be more aggressive. But I never had this just overwhelming, oh man, this is all going to fall apart.
And you and I talked about it a little bit before the game today. I talked about this with Scott Korzanowski this morning. There's this feeling that if you get outshot, the goalie stole the game for you, but it actually, I think, compounds upon itself psychologically, where you keep shooting and you keep shooting and you keep shooting and you can't score, and it becomes so disheartening. It's like warfare.
You're slamming your stick
in your head. Yeah, and I mean, we saw that on the bench today. Kevin Porter had that beautiful opportunity.
Yes.
Dubnyk robs him. NBC catches Kevin Porter on the bench. He grabbed the blade of his stick and just snapped it off like, I'm done. I don't know what else I can do.
I've done all
and that was the feeling.
What is your, just quickly here, your scouting report? Chicago probably starts on Friday. Rematch of, the past 2 years. First round, easy Chicago first round win against the Wild 2 years ago. Second round, 6 games last year, far more competitive. And now you get to Chicago for a third consecutive year. Still some brilliant talent. You got Taves and Kane and Keith and Seabrook and all those guys. But now Chicago's got one problem. They have no idea who plays goal.
Questions in goal. Same thing.
Which is, to me,
same thing that St. Louis faced.
What if I had told you back in October? I said, Jess, come here a second. Here's what's going to happen. The Wild's going to play the Blues and Blackhawks in first round series, and the only team that's going to know who its goaltender is the Wild. And their goaltender is going to be a guy. He's in Arizona. He sucked last year. His name's Devin Dubnyk. You would have had me institutionalized as a friend. You would have had me, and you would have thrown away the key.
And you're going to say the Wild might get to face Scott Darling in the playoffs. Remember him? He played in Mason City a few years ago. I mean,
and a great story.
Pat Royce and I have talked about this. This guy has played absolutely everywhere. University of Maine for a couple of years.
And I saw him.
Every minor league you could find, Scott Darling has been there, and now he's got a chance, to play for the Blackhawks in the second round.
In Game
of the playoffs.
6, Jess, he fell apart last night.
Right.
Games 5 and 6. So my guess is you get Corey Crawford, but Corey Crawford is still fighting the puck. My point being, you can have all the talent that you want up front and on defense, but if Corey Crawford can't stop the puck and Scott Darling's a mental mess at this point, advantage Wild in that case.
So we talked about the psychology of it. Here's what scares me. How bad are the Blackhawks in the Wild's heads, especially the veterans on this team? If you're Matt Dumba, you're probably not afraid of the Blackhawks because you haven't played them in the playoffs before. Ditto for Devin Dubnyk, which means a lot. But I have to wonder if the veterans, the guys who have been around the last 2 playoff series, if it's in their heads like, we've outplayed this team at times and we just can't consistently beat this team. So that's my fear, especially having to go into Chicago for games 1 and 2.
Thank you, Jess. Her Brooks jacket back on. Very nice.
And it happened to work. May hockey, there's nothing more beautiful.
Tie again. Oh, yeah, me no tie. White shirt. Stained a little bit. It's okay. He's Jess. I'm Judd. Thanks for coming to the website.
See you in round 2.
Bye.